Welcome to my podcast, Black and the Barrrio. I am Justin Wyms, undergraduate student here at St. Mary's University. My, my podcast honors the African American history of Westside San Antonio. I am donating this podcast to SAAACAM, the San Antonio African American Community Archive and Museum. So this is the 1930 census of the United States. And this is coming from, as we can see, the Department of Commerce, the Bureau of the Census, 15th Census of the United States, 1930 population schedule. We see who it was incorporated by. We see all these really nice things to really document this census. So the first family that we're gonna go, hold on, let me back up. What the census is showing the street name, the street number, the place of abode, as you see, the names of the folks who were living in these households. You see the relations. You see who's the head of the household. Here we have John W. Evans. He's the head of the household, and also the wife is the head of the household too. This isn't something that's very likely to happen. Back in the 30s, usually the men are the head of the household, but here they have a joint relationship here between those two. Going along, back then, obviously we know Blacks were referred to as Negroes. This is why you see NEG here. You see that the head of the household, John, is 34 years old. And here's the rest of their personal description. He's a male. He got married at 22, which is really young. And he married his wife as barely a minor at 18. So this is really, really good information to just see what was going on, how things are being ran. You know, it's a really simple life that they're living. They have 2 kids, 1 daughter, 1 son, Lydia Bell and Richard. Lydia Bell is 7, Richard is 8. Once again, they're being labeled as Negroes. They all have education except for the mother and father. They were not educated. So this is also a commonality throughout the early 1900s, before slavery was abolished and stuff like that. The second family, or the second household that we're going to talk about, is going to involve Miss Minerva Fields. She lives on 2107 West Laurel Street. She owns her home. It's worth 5 times as much as the Evans family's home, sitting at $1,000. She's a widow, and she can also read and write as well. Reading and writing and being illiterate. Well, reading and writing wasn't really common amongst Blacks before the 1950s and, the mid 1900s. She can read and write. She was born in Texas in 1875. Living with her is an adult, and that adult is our daughter. Her name is Carrie. Carrie is 24 years old. There's another man that is also living with Minerva, but she's not related. And that man's name is Javier Johnson. He pays rent to Minerva each month. You see on the census, you see daughter, head of household, and you see boarder, meaning that he's boarding with Minerva. You see the cost of her home. You see she's still being labeled a Negro. She's from Texas. Her parents are from Texas. She's a cook for a private house. So, you know, it's just going back to not as so much as the indentured servants, but she's still working in a private household with her daughter. So that's really interesting to just see, a single mother. She's living with her daughter, and they're just trying to make it together. They're both they're they're both working. They're having the same goal, and with a little bit of help of Javier each month, they make rent. So whatever you gotta do, I guess that's what you have to do back in the 1930s. Now we move on to the Minor family. This is an African American family. Like how the other ones were labeled, everybody's labeled Negro here. The head of household is Gus Minor and Annie Minor. They have 8 children. This is a big household. And they're also renting. Owning a house wasn't really common back then. You see, Miss Minerva owns her home, and the Evans family owned theirs as well. But owning wasn't really common, and if you're owning at a young age, that home was probably most likely passed down to you by the previous generation, meaning your mom or your uncle or your aunt, somebody who had a home that they kept up with that they wanted to donate to you. With the Minor family, this is an African American family with 8 kids, like I said. They are renting their home at 2107 McLeod Street, and everyone in their family can read and write, including the grandparents. It's not often that the grandparents are literate in this time. This family is filled with hard workers. The head of the house is the wife, along with Gus, the husband. He's the day laborer, and so is the son. Uh, you know, there's again another example of father son, mother daughter. They're just everybody's working hard. Everybody is taught to work at a young age. As the daughters, we can see here, they're sitting. They are cooks. You see their cooks daughter here. She's a cook. She's a cook, day laborer, and yeah. So here is an example of what a 1930 census looks like. I hope you guys enjoyed my podcast so far and the rest of the board. So thank you guys for listening, and that is all I have for you.